welcome to the Femafricmaths channel. We are excited about our interview. Every Monday, we bring to you careers you can pursue when you study mathematics. And today, we are excited to bring to you a female African who is an actuary. Welcome, Kisiwa, to our channel. We'd like you to start by introducing yourself and telling us about your journey with mathematics from your early childhood to where you are now.
Thank you, Angela. I'm really glad to be here and to be able to speak to everyone who's listening to me now. And I'm definitely grateful for this opportunity. I feel like it's definitely relevant that girls and just people from Ghana and I mean all across the continent of Africa learn about the opportunities that mathematical sciences present and the different branches that exist with it. So just to tell you a bit about myself, like Angela, you said, my name is Ampadu-Kissi. I'm originally from Ghana. And so maybe I'll start from high school. So I went to Holy Child High School in Cape Coast, and I did a business, I guess I was gonna say business degree, but I was a business student in high school. And that was probably because my GSS teacher said business was the right course for someone who really liked math. In hindsight, that's wrong, but okay, I did business. And then as a business student, I wanted to be in the business school when I got to college. But then unfortunately, I had 5 A's and a couple B's. So that's definitely not the grades that the business school wants. So I didn't get into the business school. I got my second option, which was math, computer science, and statistics. So I majored in math, minored in computer science. And then while there, I mean, of course, I thought I wanted to be an accountant. So I took the ACCA exams. My dad is a chartered accountant, so it just felt like the right thing to do because the goal was to just be like my dad, you know. But then while doing like math, I realized I did enjoy just the process of studying math. And I personally, I know like math can be very abstract, but I personally consider math like it's just a brain game. Like it's really just a training for your brain 24/7, because every single problem that you see in math involves some thinking. It's not something that you could just like know off the top of your head and write down. And you have to think, and you have to train yourself to think in a certain way. And sometimes you have to train yourself to not even think in a certain way, but to know how to think around different problems, you know. And so I enjoyed that process. So while I was doing my national service as a TA, I always wanted to do my master's right after school before even starting work. And so I was exploring what my options were. I thought about financial engineering and financial mathematics, even just getting an MBA, you know, again, just to stay within the business world. But then I had like a couple TAs, Bright Amuji, who was the president of the math association or something of the math department in Legon. And he was an actuary. He was in school studying actuarial science. And then I think there was another TA, Justice, I think. He was also taking some actuarial exams. So I started looking into it. And then I felt like, oh, this would actually be interesting because I had developed interest in risk management, in just like managing risks of financial institutions, and actuarial science seem to have that content. So I figured, well, that would be a good place to start from. And also, I always thought I wanted to be the treasurer of particularly Barclays at the time. And so it was like, okay, that's a good way to get it started. And so I got admitted to Illinois State University, and I was there for 2 years. And prior to going, I think I left Ghana on the 24th of July, maybe. And I have scheduled to take my first actuarial exam on maybe the 20th or the 19th. So that was a probability exam, and luckily I passed. So that was a pretty good way to kickstart it. So in ISU, which is Illinois State University, I was in school and then working as a graduate assistant as well. But then the students, which were the college students, had attempted a couple actuarial exams. So it was very relevant to take these actuarial exams while you were in school because that made you employable. and that made the employers know that you have a skin in the game. So while at Illinois State, I took a couple actuarial exams, and then graduated with an associateship an associateship with the Society of Actuaries. But after my first year, I did get an internship. I worked as a data science intern with a logistics company. Now that's really, really different from like actuarial science or whatever, right? But then at the time, like it was really competitive. A lot of people had a couple exams. I had only passed, I guess, 2 exams when I was applying for internships. So I wasn't as attractive to employers as other people were. And it was a tough time. I mean, that's life. You go through these challenges. And so I found this internship, and I know how relevant data was to actuarial science. And so I even though this wasn't in the field I was interested in, I still took the opportunity. And I might say that internship was really great. I did learn a lot on how to like use statistical tools to solve actual world problems, and even had the opportunity to like build optimization tools to help track routes, their deliveries, and minimize like the time on the road and also the cost of the total delivery. So I graduated from Illinois State in 2018. And prior to graduating, I had got a job with Prudential in New Jersey as an investment analyst. And again, this role doesn't sound like an actuarial role title, which is usually like an associate actuary or something like that. But I was hired as an actuary. So I was working within investments, but I worked as a liaison between the actuarial department and the investment department. I was working within the chief investment office, which is the CIO. And there I supported the our international businesses in Brazil, Mexico, Argentina, and I supported the investment operations there. And I helped them in building ALM tools and key rate duration models, and basically anything that had to do with their investment decisions and investment operations. So with strategic asset allocations and tactical asset allocations. And then I would also, we would also get liability projections from the actuarial department. So I had the opportunity to be the one in charge of analyzing these liabilities, making sure they were in line with our expectations, and then translating it to the investments like department's language, and also helping us model our assets to match these these obligations that we have to people. So I worked there for about a year and a half, and then I moved to Venerable. This was a smaller variable annuity company in Pennsylvania. I always had the question of why I moved to a smaller company. And for me, I think it was probably a really good decision, if not the best like career decision I made at the time. I enjoyed my work at Prudential, but then I was looking for a bit more growth. I was looking for a bit more opportunities. I was looking for more challenges. So I took this role as a senior actuarial associate with Venerable. There I still work within the investment operation, but then the job description was a bit different. Other than supporting the portfolio management and the asset managers with their investment decisions, I also worked on asset analytics too. So performing credit risk analysis, and also just like analyzing what the market changes are and how it affects our portfolio, and working on assumption settings. One of my biggest achievements there was I had the opportunity to build a private equity cash flow model from scratch. And it was very interesting. And at the time I had taken maybe 2 CFA exams, so I had some exposure to different asset classes, but then not in depth enough to be able to build a private equity model, right? So I did a lot of like, I spent like 6 months just doing research and just reading about private equity, the models that exist, and how to use the data that we had. And apart from like the really big models, which my company wasn't relevant to us because they were usually too huge for asset block. There weren't a lot of models to even explore. So we worked on statistics and using different distributions to model the cash flows, and then building a prototype in Excel to be able to project these. And the next move was supposed to translate this into R, but then I left the job before then. But then, yeah, we had a working model in Excel and using VBA different Excel tools and to be able to model this. So that was my job at Venerable. So I was also there for about a year and a half. And then I decided to take a break from the corporate world and then pursue a PhD in statistics. And so I've been in the PhD for about a year now, and toughest decision of my life so far. But yeah, I'm there now, and I guess hopefully I will be enjoying the process and the struggles of a PhD.
Right. And yeah, so there are some questions. Say you don't ask a PhD student, which year are you in? How's your studies going? When are you graduating?
Don't ask. Because we don't know yet. Even like for the graduation, it's like, well, they say 5 years, but it could take longer. It could take shorter if you're lucky. Rarely does it, but yeah,
Wow. So a lot of things I found in common. So I was also a business student in secondary school.
Okay.
I probably chose it because my sisters were business students when they were in secondary school. But something that struck me was about your grade. I also wanted to go to the business school after my secondary education. I also had 5 A's and 3 B's. See, that's the challenge with our system, right? You get all A's in accounting and business management, but it doesn't give you a ticket to the business school, which is something that hopefully with time we can.
It's very absurd because while I was in Lagos, and I realized, to me, it felt like the smarter people, I'm not saying business school doesn't get smart people. That's not what I'm saying. But then like math is so much harder than business. It's so much harder. So it doesn't make sense that if people don't get business, you think that math isn't, I mean, even though like we choose it as our second option, if we're not good enough for the business school, how are we good enough for math, computer science, statistics? Like those are really, really hard courses and involve like a lot of work. So to me, it doesn't make sense, but that's a system that we unfortunately have to deal with. And so like they say, examination favors, what. So unfortunately, the smart people by the systems and measure go into the business school, which is great because they also come out to be like really great people in their career life. But then we end up in math, and unfortunately, like the problem you are trying to solve, Angela, which is we end up in math, and then everyone thinks we're going to be teachers, and so even getting hired, like if you're not an entrepreneur, even getting hired becomes a challenge because the corporate world doesn't recognize the relevance of mathematical sciences, So yeah.
Interesting. So upon hindsight, would you say that it was fortunate that you didn't get into the business school? That's what I usually say, because personally, I feel I wouldn't have been so fulfilled or enjoyed what I do. So upon hindsight, would you say it was fortunate you didn't get into the business school?
I really have no regrets, honestly. I was glad. I think after my first year, and I was just glad I wasn't in the business school. I mean, it was nice to see because business school feels like a niche group because like they have their own buildings and do their own things. But then the breadth of the knowledge I was getting from the math department and the exposure I was getting was something I think I would have never been exposed if I didn't do math. And I think business knowledge can be acquired outside of college. And like I took the ACCA. If I wanted, so prior to leaving for Illinois State, I was interviewing for KPMG's graduate program. And so yeah, I could have just gone into the I guess the business field. And so I feel like business knowledge, I know they teach a lot in business school, but then business knowledge some of it can be acquired outside of school, right? Math is so hard to learn outside. It's hard to learn when you're in school. So like just picking up in math, like, and when I say math, I feel like when I talk about I'm doing statistics, I'm doing math, the first thing is, oh, I did intro to statistics and it was so hard, or this, and I'm like, that's not really what I'm talking about, but okay. And the actual math is something that you need someone to kind of like at least open you to and expose you to. And that's knowledge that I would have never got if I didn't have this, I guess I'll call challenge at that stage in my life. So I have no regrets. In hindsight, I should have just chosen math as a major, as my first option.
Yeah. So what about the flexibility? So as a young person, very often you're not sure what you want to do. Even now, you are not sure what career you want to pursue from here. What do you say about choosing maths as an undergrad course? Because you talked about the flexibility of moving from maths to business to accounting. What would your advice be to maybe a younger you who is not sure of what to study at the university, what career to pursue? What subject do you think you would recommend to them, and why? Why would you?
I think that ignoring our system, I guess our national or continental system of math students become teachers and business students go work in the corporate world. So ignoring that fact, I think pursuing a major in math, not just because I did math, but pursuing a major in math opens up more doors to you than you can think of. And like I initially said, you could easily go back to the business school if you're interested in that, right? By even if you studied math. You could divert into engineering. You could go to computer science, you could go to statistics, and maybe the fields that you might not be able to venture into might be like biological sciences. And I mean, all those things you have to probably go back to school for. But like, I would pose the question to someone, mention a course, and I'll tell you how you can get there because you studied math. And because like I said in my introduction, math is really just a brain train. Like you're basically training your brain to be able to think about things very differently and to be able to think about abstract things that you sometimes have no idea about. And so in my opinion, you could like math opens a bit more doors for you than a couple other courses would. The only problem is the fact that we ignored initially, which is picking that up again, the system within which we find ourselves. Because if you went to try to work in a bank with a math degree in Ghana or in Africa, if you don't know someone, just getting your resume looked at more than once might be a challenge, right? But then if you did math here in the US, or I don't know, maybe in UK or wherever, the actuarial sciences want you, the statistics, the data people want you, the engineering people want you. Like I'm blanking on like the professions, but I know like when I try to like look at the job pool, there's a lot of them. Again, even as a business student, it's not what you're learning in school what you're learning in school is not the only thing that you're going to use to get a job, right? And so in addition to being a math student or being a business student or being a biological science student or whatever, there are other skills that you pick on the side that are more relevant to the job, sometimes even more than the degree. And so I think like having a major in any of the mathematical sciences is definitely a door opener for a ton more professions. And even for like someone who really isn't sure where they want to like go after college, if you start with math, the window of opportunity is much wider because you could like branch into so many different fields. I didn't do a math master's, but my colleagues did math. I ended up doing actuarial science. I know some people who ended up doing financial statistics or like risk management or even like just going straight into an MBA. You know, there are different and very different fields that I think math opens doors for, and hopefully people learn about those as much as we in the profession and in the field know.
Thanks so much for sharing your thoughts. So I was listening to you, your journey. You moved from industry to academia and now to industry. Very often when we study mathematics, it's more of we haven't thinking of it as abstract. What skills did you acquire, or yes, did you acquire that helped you in your transition from academia to industry and now from industry to academia? What skills? So if there's someone watching who would want to transition from academia, you finish with a master's degree, you want to work in a bank or in an actual firm, what skills do you think they should work on whilst they study at the university?
I think there are like two different sets of the skills. So there's the hard one and then there's the soft skills, right? So the hard skills will probably be the knowledge that you acquire from school. I would put like programming skills into the hard bracket. And so, and when you do math, I know like in Legon, there's a computational mathematics class that teaches you Python. It teaches you the very basic parts of Python. You don't do too much with it. But as a student, it's up to you to take that introductory class and make it what you need to be. Like some people think that if you do computer science, you come out as a great programmer. No, I did computer science, and as much as they teach you something, everything they're teaching you is really introductory. They're not going to teach you how to model cash flows, how to like build an optimization model or whatever. And unfortunately, at least when I was in school, half of our tests were on paper. So you're being told to write like something, an if loop or whatever, or a for loop, but then it's on paper. So I think one of the biggest things I would recommend for anyone studying math is to pick up your programming skills. This is something that you do off of class. You're not just using what has been taught in class. If you're waiting to be introduced in class, that's okay. But once you're introduced into the language, Python, R, C++, whatever language that you're comfortable with or that you want to be comfortable with, just become at least an intermediate profession, like just be good enough. You're not just someone who's learning, but you're someone who can use it to write a good for loop to solve one problem that's like, you're having. Like, I think the programming skills is a big one. The other thing that's I think is really relevant is also just getting internships. So I know we don't have a lot in Ghana, or I don't know about other African countries, but at least in Ghana, we don't have like a lot of opportunities, especially not for math students. But then I think that internships don't only have to be in the corporate world, just basically just any job experience. So coming into the US, I realized people put things on the resume that you would never think of. So people put their work as a store attendant, or just like random things. I was teaching high school students part-time. I was volunteering doing ABC. All these small things don't exactly say that you can do the job. They just say that you could be a good team player, you could be a good speaker, you could be a good communicator, and you could be very adaptable, you could be easy to teach and a quick learner. They just give you certain skills that school doesn't present to you. And school, your bachelor's degree doesn't exactly say that about you, right? And so that's something that I think is also important, just getting some work exposure. It doesn't have to be corporate. Corporate is always great if you want to go to the corporate world, but it doesn't have to be corporate. It just has to be some exposure to just working and just using the skills that you might have. The other thing is also just using the career centers in the universities. We don't use it like at all. But think about it. Someone wakes up in the morning and comes to work to help you be employable, to help you fix your resume, to help you know what to say when you go for an interview. And it's free because you've paid your fees. Even if you're on scholarship, the fees have been paid. So use like the resources. Even if they say you need to walk up that hill, I forget what it's called, to the registrar's office up there to go meet. Just use the resources because it exists. So those would be some of the hard things. The other thing would be just the soft skills. Just so before I came to the US, I consider myself at least adequately eloquent, but I wasn't confident. I wasn't a very confident speaker, and I wasn't a very poised speaker. Like when I go to class, I see some of these students answer questions that are wrong. I'm like, I know it's wrong. Why are you even saying it? But then they're still saying it. They're saying it without hiding it. They're just expressing their opinion, throwing it out there. And I had to learn it that way. Like within the first semester, I was like, yeah, you have to up your game. You have to speak up more. You have to answer questions. You have to go to the professor and ask questions and just be confident in yourself, because first of all, you got to where you are because you are good enough for it, right? And so just be confident in yourself, speak up, and just, as my mom would say, chest out, stand up. Because and men get that much easier. Like men are a bit more confident just naturally. They speak up more. They are not as, they're shy men, they're shy males, but like they are less likely to hide their feelings, and when I say feelings, not the emotional feelings, but like they are less likely to hide their thoughts, and opinions than girls are. And so I think just being able to speak up and be confident in who you are and just trusting that you know what you're talking about. That's definitely very important. I did have a couple soft skills in my mind, but I've lost all of them. But I think also actually one big thing is also just learning to communicate and just learning to communicate your ideas. And that's something that I am still learning. And I think like there are presidents of companies, there are executive directors who are still learning that, right? Just communicating your ideas so that the other person listening not only hears you, but can understand you, and communicating it in a very precise manner. I think these are very small things that you could pick up from just speaking with people. I don't know how many Toastmasters they exist in Ghana, but like any opportunity to speak and taking up leadership roles and being a class rep, that might seem like that might seem like nothing, but you have the opportunity to stand in front of your class and talk to them all the time, and like also liaise between professors and the students sometimes. And this just gives you skills that if someone went through college just by going to class and coming home, they will not get, but then you have, and you can put on your resume. Even if it's something that you can put on your resume, if you do get the chance to be interviewed, it will show up in the way you speak, the way you communicate with people, and just like your confidence. Yeah.
I definitely can attest to the fact that you speak with a lot of confidence and you're very assertive and you're definitely improving on it. And I can see across this. So, okay, so I've read there's a lot of news about you on the internet. Always people are asking, oh, this lady, do you know her? Valedictorian, finishing top of your class. And so people see these and they ask, are you a normal person? Did you so we want people to feel that we are real people and we are not just people that are out of reach. So yes, in spite of the successes, you've had a lot of successes. Being a valedictorian for your year group from a maths class is definitely an achievement, right? Even for your actual exams and all that. So what for you has been your of course you are definitely more successes ahead, but what for you was your key highlights on all these successes that you've chalked? Of course,
yeah, I feel like at every point something else becomes a key highlight. So when I was about to graduate from college, I guess like I was almost done with my ACCA. So at the point I thought, oh my God, I'm about to graduate and then now my ACCA, and I only had like a couple B's on my transcript. So that's like great. And then I got called to be the valedictorian. I was like, oh yeah, that beats everything. Everything else is down. And then I went to do my master's, and I was going to graduate with a 4.0. To me, that felt great. And then I was going to graduate as an associate of the Society of Actuaries. That was perfect, And then at some point, I got a CFA and then blah, 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 and the FSA. But I don't think any of them are as fulfilling as just my life in the background. So just being able to me, my greatest achievement has been to be able to keep some sort of a balance between all of this. So I know my friends say I study a lot. I do study a lot, but then I have a lot of fun too. I don't think anyone will believe this, but then if I get the chance to go clubbing, I love clubbing. I really do love clubbing. And that's really unbelievable. I don't even have my glasses here, so at least hopefully I look more normal today. But like, just like you see me in my glasses and with all of these things, you would never think of that. But yeah, I just the fact that I was able to achieve a lot of these things and having a normal life in the back of it is probably my greatest achievement. And I got married to my best friend last year, and even like having the opportunity to have met him and having him in it and being able to manage that relationship and also manage everything else that goes on with studying and making the mark. I think those achievements are probably a bit more relevant to me now, because as it stands, I mean, if you go to work, you have all of these, but at the end of the day, you come home, you need to have a life, right? And those are the ones that stay with you. If you get fired from your job tomorrow, it's your life and the people who are around you who will keep you, who will keep you afloat. And so as much as I'm not saying all those other things I have done are not great, like I said, at every stage, something felt like the greatest achievement. Like right now, if I could fast forward this PhD, maybe everything else won't matter except the fact that I finished a PhD, right? But being able to finish it, having my husband by my side, hopefully being able to build a family in the process, those things are the things that I will look at and say, yes, well, as much as I did all of these things, I am so glad that I had these things in the back, because those are the things that push you. Those are the things that sustain you. And those are the things that make you like keep going. Because if you wake up and you know you have these really hard assignments to do, and but then you also have like a husband who's going to motivate you and be there with you and make you dinner when you're not able to cook, and just hold your hand and say it's gonna be okay. Those little things make the most difference. And like you were saying before, people think that we are magicians, we're superstars because we are able to study and make, clock all these achievements. And I always think it's just being able to have a good balance, and having a great balance is really, really important. When I was in college, I studied a lot. I will not lie about that. But once I wrote my last exam, between my last exam and then I was taking ACCA classes. So between my last exam and the ACCA classes starting, yeah, I did have a lot of fun. Like I would do whatever I wanted to do within that bracket. But once the next thing started, it's like, okay, pause, just get this. And because I knew that if I did the work, then I would have something to celebrate. Otherwise, if I do the work and while I'm doing it, just doing it haphazardly because I want to be able to have fun in between, I put myself at a risk of having to do the work twice. And that's probably so much worse than, like, even doing it twice is so much worse than just doing it and getting a C or a D. If you get an F and you have to do it again, that's painful. Especially if you're doing it twice because you didn't make the right decisions. And so
I was asking, you mentioned about your husband being a very good support system for you. So we would like to find out, would you like to send some shout outs to some mentors or some key people who have been supportive on your journey? We'd like to hear about their role in your success story.
So I do have a lot of people that have supported me. Now that you mention it here, I do owe a lot of people things. But I mean, of course, my family has been the biggest thing. And by my family, not my new family. I mean, my dad, my brothers, my mom, and their support has it's. I mean, I know not I don't even have the perfect family, and not everyone has the support of their family when they're making career choices. But I think my family and my friends system have been like really great supports just in starting my career, in just knowing it's okay to not be able to go to the business school, just make the best of what you have. Just having like someone tell you that makes a big difference. So I think like my family has been great, and not just my family, for even like my friends. I've had like very different class of friends come in and out of my life at certain stages. And I think they've all had very different impacts. And when I was the valedictorian, the speaker at my graduation also became a friend. I would call him a friend. He's old, much older than I am. But he was really, really helpful. So he put me in touch with someone who also helped me, who also encouraged me to apply to Illinois State. So even though I knew Bright Amuji was in Illinois State, it didn't even occur to me to apply to Illinois State. And the person recommended, Illinois State was the only school I applied to in the US. And it was through like the speaker who put me in touch. And sorry, he's called Ernest Akore. He was a speaker at my graduation, and then he put me in touch with Koku, who's in the US. And I think he's in Florida now. And then Koku was the one who recommended that I apply to Illinois State. He actually paid for my application fee. Yeah, and then that's how I got an AM. So I might not be able to remember everyone, but I think when I was in Illinois State, and my professor, he was called Dr. Krzysztof Ostaszewski. I might not be pronouncing the name right, but we all call him Dr. Chris. He's a great. He was a great program director. And he was very helpful in just the process, encouraging us to study and take some of these actuarial exams, and also providing financial or like whatever support we could find. I also met this man called, we call him Wopayao, but then he's called Francis Nketia. He's a tremendous, he's had an impact on a ton of actuaries here in the US and even in Ghana, and is still having impact on their lives. And the kind of impact he had on my life, and just just the support, the background support, and even like financial support that he gave to me, I can never like see, I can never like even start to talk about. He's been really, really great. And then I met my husband when I was in Illinois State. So he's also an actuary, unfortunately for us. But then he was like great support, because we would study sometimes together, and then we would provide each other like a backbone and a shoulder to cry on here and there. And then a ton of friends that I met in Illinois State who are now like my closest friends. Those were also very, very important. I also met a couple people. I met I forget his name, Nigel. No, he and Juan Jonas Broby were the two people who really had a hand in me, my resume being looked at for my first job. So like knowing people is important, but networking to know people is equally important, because I didn't know them before I came here, and I didn't even like know them on a personal level. They don't know my father, they don't know my mother, I don't know them from anywhere. They saw my resume, they thought it was impressive, and then that's how I knew them, And so even as much as I'm just giving credits to people, it's just to also tell people listening, like networking, one of the soft skills I might have forgotten, networking, really, really important. Meeting people, keeping in touch, and just you never know who you're going to meet somewhere, who you are going to help, and who is going to be of help to you. And help doesn't always come financially. Sometimes it just comes emotionally, it just comes physically. There are a lot of supports. We all have support systems. There's not one person who has done everything by themselves, even if they say they have. So and then I think I have met a couple of people on the way, people I've worked with, my former boss, like certain people who have played certain key roles in my life. And this goes back to just networking, keeping in touch, and making sure everyone also knows that you're grateful for the role that they play in your life, or the role that they will play in your life in the future.
Wow. Wow. So thanks so much for highlighting. It's important. We don't get to where we are without the support of people, right? So sometimes it's not financial support, it's more of like you said, they telling someone to look at your CV, just a job, someone reading your personal essay for you to help you get that graduate school position. Wow, the time really goes so fast. You see, when you are very interesting conversation, the time really goes fast. So let's try to round up here. So you've mentioned some of the challenges. Maybe you can highlight. Can you highlight? So moving from the Ghanaian educational system to the US system, you mentioned the lack of confidence as something that you found. But which other challenge did you find transitioning between these two educational systems?
I think for me it was, I know I already mentioned it, but primarily just the confidence. That was probably my biggest challenge. Just learning to be able to speak up and just trust like what I know. And also, I guess I'm not a disrespectful person, but then I'm also not overly polite, right? My dad, luckily for me, my dad told us to stop saying please for everything and stop. Like, my dad felt like when you say please before you start every sentence, it makes you look too humble and people could, step on you or whatever. And so I think that's something that I think I noticed from other people as well. So this is not just something that I experienced, but being here, I've seen people who've coming in, when I'm talking to them, there's always a please before every sentence. And to me, it's not a pet peeve. That's not a good thing. But like, I think generally, we don't have to put a please before every word. And people here just speak their mind. Like, it's even in Ghana, it's a free world, right? But then we always want to sound so respectful, and like we always feel like we are begging someone for something. But that's usually not it. People are benefiting from us as much as we are benefiting from them. If you're reaching out to a recruiter, I understand, okay, that the last line might be, please let me know if you want to talk more, blah, blah, blah. But like, you don't have to start by saying, after you say dear or hi or whatever, please, blah, 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 please, blah, blah, blah. It's like, if you're trying to get a job, the job is going to be needing your skills. You're going to be needing their money, of course. But then they need you as much as you need them. When you're in class and you're speaking, your professor needs your opinion as much as you need his knowledge. Your colleague needs your opinion as much as you need their opinion. So it's not always relevant to put I don't even know what to call them, but like, certain words that make you appear very respectable. It's okay if that's who you are, but I think that as a people, we should just learn to grow out of it a little bit. Because you could be respectful without putting in all of even in this conversation, we both of us have been very cordial and respectful, but we have barely had to use please and I'm sorry and kindly and all of those keywords that we would probably use if we were, for some people at home, those are important words to put in a message. And so I think back to it again, I cannot talk about it more than I need to. The confidence, just confidence to speak, be bold, and speak your mind, be articulate, eloquence, just speak up. No one's gonna beat you up. I don't know. I don't know if sometimes we're just, I don't know. No one's gonna beat you up if you say the wrong thing. It might be shameful. Well, okay. That's not the worst thing that could happen to you, And I know just saying it doesn't make it any easier. But then it takes practice. Especially if you come to the US, there's Toastmasters where you could go and just talk and just learn to speak better, just learn to be a good communicator, and then have other people who are also trying to be like good speakers and judge your speaking abilities, and also like help you. You could listen to other people talk. You could go for Toastmasters for a whole month and never say a word, just watch people speak. That's a way to get started, right? And so I think that was probably my biggest challenge. I'm trying to think of other things. Oh, another thing was also, even this was when I had to put up my resume. When you go into a new environment, every corporate world has a different structure, right? And so here in the US, they use resumes. Resumes, especially when you're starting off, resumes are exactly one page. Everything fits on a sheet of paper. And they say because like the recruiter probably doesn't have time to scan through a couple papers. If you go to a different country, they might be using a CV, which requires that you're a bit more detailed. So when you do go into a different environment, the US, the UK, Canada, and Germany, Australia, wherever you go, and just learn the way they do it. Even if like South Africa, Senegal, like the different countries even on a continent could be doing it very differently. So I think one of the biggest things was also just learning how it's done here in the US, and also being able to adjust it on mine. Because if I look at my first resume and I look at my resume today, I understand I have gathered other skills and other achievements, right? But even the structure of the resume, my first one was pretty appalling. And I don't think I have the greatest resume today, but then I think like just learning that this is how they want it done here, and learning to be able to adjust myself to that structure has also been really, really important. And well, before even let's just go back to the school. The way professors expect you to answer problems, the way professors even test problems are very different from the way they are in at home. So like maybe maybe in Legon, sometimes you could see a problem that you've seen before. It might just have a different structure, but you might have seen it before. When I started a PhD, like the PhD, for example, I realized you could have your notebook next to you and it will be very irrelevant to the problem that it has, right? Yeah. You just need the basic knowledge and then the way to think about the problem to be able to go about it. And if you're not used to that, when they tell you to bring a cheat sheet, You'll be busy writing all of the things that you've seen in the notes. Meanwhile, in reality, none of it will be relevant, and then you would think, oh, I have a cheat sheet. I have all the information I need. So I don't even need to learn that much because I can always make reference. But just learning how to answer problems, how problems are tested, what the professor is requiring of you. So like if they give you, in Ghana, I think if they give you a theorem and they show you the proof is testable, right? And in my PhD here, the proof is just for you to understand how the theorem works. It will never be tested, like never ever be tested. Well, it might be tested, but it might be tested for a different theorem, right? And they might be asked, and you would have to realize, oh, I've seen something like this, and I can apply the kind of, it won't even be the theorem, that I can apply the trick that was used in that theorem to solve this problem, right? And so for people who are going like to school, is just learning how to answer problems the way you're expected to, knowing what information is relevant, and having that relevant information at hand would be really useful.
Thanks so much for giving all these details. You see how ideas flow when you start speaking. Oh, but our time has really elapsed so quickly. So we would like to take your closing message. So a younger person. So we have audience from all across the world, not just Africa. Out of the cities where our top 10 followers come from, 7 of these 10 cities are African cities. So we have people watching us from all across. So let's suppose there's a young girl in Kwilu, in Ghana, where you come from, watching you. What would be your inspiring message to this young girl? You have broken all the all the myths about women not being good at maths. You're always doing one thing or the other. What would be your inspiring message to this young girl who would want to pursue a career in mathematical sciences in a minute?
I think the first thing will be to any girl who's listening, you can also break the stereotypes. The stereotypes I just consider them statements that someone has sat in their basement and just made, and based on how they feel. They don't define they don't define women, they don't define Africans, they don't define human beings. These are all just opinions. And the fact that one person has been able to do it is proof enough that you can do it. And also, like, no achievement is really too big. I know, like, sometimes people put it out there that, oh, you might be doing too much and then you won't be employable, or you won't even be able to find a partner. And like, I have a husband, I have a loving husband. Angela has a partner. Like, it doesn't, there's really nothing that there's nothing that says that if you achieve so much, you cannot have a successful life outside of your career, outside of your education. And so I think, like, it's very important that we women just understand that as much as the men are going for it, we can also go for it. And it's okay if, as a woman, you say that, okay, I want to be a good career woman, but I also want to be a good home woman. That's okay. That doesn't stop you from achieving what you want to achieve. Because in a couple of years, when you have your kids and your kids leave the home, it will be up to you and your husband alone at home. And then you may have to pick up on the career that you might have started and might have had to pause because of the family you were starting. And so even from that perspective, it's good that you get these achievements done now, or even along the line. And then in the future, if you have to pause your career to raise a family, like I said, that's okay. But then in 20 years, your child will be in college, then you can pick it up again. You might find it necessary to have done some of these things, to have clocked some of these achievements earlier on in life, and then they will become useful. The last thing that I want to hammer is, I have probably said it so many times, but let's be confident. And let's be confident in our bodies. Let's be confident in our skin. Let's be confident in who we are and believe in ourselves. I understand imposter syndrome exists, but we all face it. The smartest person faces it. Even the least smart person faces imposter syndrome, trust me. So just be confident in your skin, and feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions, if you're just looking for some motivation here and there. But if you're reaching out to me, just make sure you actually put exactly what you're looking for, not open questions. Maybe you're looking for advice in a specific profession, or, oh, I'm applying to school. How do I do A, B, C, D? Not just for me, but then when you're reaching out to people who have other responsibilities in life, it's easier for them to answer your question when it's straight to the point and pretty precise than when it's pretty open-ended, because then there has to be back and forth trying to understand your question. And also you're giving them more of a job to have to think about what you're looking for and all of that. So be confident, ask questions, and speak up, and just be happy. Life is too short enough to not be happy. So be happy while doing math.
Wow, that's so much of Kissi. So I like what you said. Don't let stereotypes define you. Someone starts in their basement to define those stereotypes. Don't let them define you, right? And like you said, just go for the achievements. It wouldn't stop you from being that career woman or that mother, wife. There's nothing we say that you can't have a balance between.
There's always we can all have the balance. I mean, it might take more work.
Of course,
it might take more work, because being a mother and being a wife and being a career woman, those are 3 full-time jobs. I know I said a wife is a full-time job. Yes, that's a full-time job in itself. And so being able to do all of it at the same time, it takes a lot of work, but it's doable. It's very doable.
Definitely is. Thanks so much for your time. We know you are very busy, but we went for the specifics, and we are glad you were able to make time for us.
Thank you so much for having me.
We didn't go with hello, how are you, and just do the back and forth. We just went straight for it, and we are really honored that you made time for us, and we look forward to sharing your story with the world. There's so much depth in it, and we look forward to sharing these insights with our audience. Thanks so much for honoring our invitation. We look forward to sharing your story with the world. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.